Hello and welcome to the Expanded Woman Network podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons, and this is my co-host, Misty Willis.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you today. I wanted to bring on somebody that's really amazing. She's the #1 Amazon bestselling author, motivational speaker, success and business coach, and Heal Your Life national trainer. And today we're going to talk about how to transform your feelings of less than to more than enough. And I'd like to welcome today Victoria Johnson.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hey.
It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great to see you. Great to see you. We made it all work this morning.
It's true. It just seems that it's been one of these weeks or months where there's so much going on with so many people. And so I'm really glad that we're just taking the time today to just sit down and chat and talk about, transforming those feelings of not measuring up or not being enough and really recognizing that, we're all just doing the best that we can and we're all going through this together.
Yes, we were just talking about that right before this came on. We're like, man, it's just been one of those weeks. But, it is about transforming your feelings. Like, you can choose to be happy. You can choose to do those things. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So a little bit about myself. First of all, I am a wife and a mom and a grandma, and those are really important things to me. So I always like to give that a shout out to my amazing family, who is so kind and supportive in what I do and what they give me the space to do, which is fabulous. And so really what's most important to me is, as far as my work goes, is just helping other people to really learn to love themselves, to connect with who they are, to feel passionate and to feel satisfied and content with their life, and helping them find that sense of purpose, that sense of knowing who they are, because often as women, that gets put on the back burner. And so that is really important to me. As far as what I do, as you mentioned, I'm the Heal Your Life National Trainer for Canada. It's an international certification program where we certify people in the philosophies of Louise Hay to lead workshops, to coach other people. And it's a fabulous program that's just absolutely life-changing, and I say that with confidence, and it hasn't failed me yet, and I don't imagine that it ever will. It's a program that is authorized through Hay House, and Louise Hay created it herself. And then also, as you know, I'm an author. I've written 3 children's books, a book, Do That, and then some, Transform Feelings of Less Than to More Than Enough. And there's a workbook that goes along with that as well. And I'm working on another book right now called Resetability, and it is for women in midlife who are ready to push that reset button and make the show a little bit more about them and fulfilling their dreams and goals and desires.
Oh, awesome.
I absolutely love that. The cool thing about that for all of us is that, even with myself, I'm going through the menopause stage and I'm struggling with the different emotions and feelings. And then obviously having that background of transformation. And so, this topic of transformation is so powerful, because the whole thing that I like to really tap into is it's okay. It's okay.
Yes.
And pat the self on the back and say, you know what? You are special, and it's okay to feel those feelings. And then now I have the power to release them. I have the power not to own them, and then I can let them go.
Absolutely. And, I think that as women, it's funny that we're talking about this, because this is something that I've been processing over the last couple of weeks. And I think that as women, we often shame ourselves when we have strong feelings. And, maybe it's something that's coming up from an earlier part of our life or even our childhood. And we're like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. I should just push that under a rug and not acknowledge my feelings. Or we get caught in that rut of thinking that, we're causing drama. right? By having our feelings, we're causing drama. And so, this is something that I've been really thinking about the last couple of weeks. And what really came to me yesterday that I'd love to talk to you ladies about, because I know that your show is really all about helping women to become even more empowered and to own those feelings and conquer them. And so for me, one of the things that really came to me yesterday, I was out for a walk, and it was just like this boom hit me over the head. It's not drama, it's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's trauma. And we deserve to process that. And we deserve to actually feel those feelings, to be mad as hell, right? If that's what we want, to cry for 2 days, if that's what we need to do, and to be able to actually go through those and to not be labeled as just adding drama to a situation. So it's been really interesting just kind of going through all of those feelings and knowing that in order to be our healthiest self and to show up as our brightest self and to make the biggest impact, we really do need to just take a look under all those little rugs that we've swept things under.
Mm-hmm.
Speak it, girlfriend. You know what? It's so funny that you say this, and I love that you're saying this. And you know why? Because one of the things that I do when I'm processing is I let out that sound from deep within me. I'll go, ah, or eh, to get that feeling out, to get that pent up energy out. And people don't realize that when you do these sorts of things, I mean, you're pulling that root chakra stuff out and you're bringing the energy up to your throne.
Absolutely. And it's so important. And how many times have we been told, that we're nice girls and so we don't get mad, right? And that we don't get angry, or, if we do speak about something, it'll be kind. And, what you did the other day, that really hurt me, And so I advise my clients, go for a drive, go, park on a road that's not busy, and do your windows up and scream, right? Let it out, let that energy out, and even letting it out physically, like what you were saying, that sound is amazing, but even letting it out physically in terms of, pushing your body physically to release the physical stress that goes along with the mental and the emotional stress.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think the one for me is the sound. Like, you can tell how I'm doing that day when I'm like, I'm sighing, and I don't even realize I'm doing it, but it's definitely something that helps me kind of like release a little bit if I needed to, like this morning. No.
Well, it's so funny because we keep talking about how it's been such a crazy week, and it occurs to me it's Tuesday morning, isn't it? Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Oh dear Lord.
It's early in the week yet. Hopefully the rest will be better.
That's right. Let's just get it all out right now with a big sigh. Right?
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
So
and
in
so,
your book, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was just wanted to hear about your book and how you are addressing the feelings that we have, and, how can you be more than enough?
Okay, so what I addressed in the book was I broke it down into sections. And so the book is Do That and Then Some, Transform Feelings of Less Than to More Than Enough. And then I broke it down into sections, and I started off with section 1 being your inner child and having to deal with that part of you. And, that child who needs that extra love, needs that extra attention, needs to feel safe, wants to protect you, and quite often even sabotages out of that desire to protect the adult self. And so when I talk about the inner child, do you know what I mean by that? Or I could explain it a little bit more.
Explain it. Yeah, there are some people that may not know.
Okay, so I wish there was a phrase that wasn't quite so woo-woo than inner child, but I have tried as I might, and I cannot come up with something. So if you ladies know something, by all means, or if you're listening, please put it in the chat. And but that inner child is that part of us, that vulnerable person inside of us who, really up until even the age of 7 was our defender or our demise, right? And now as our adult self, when there's things that are happening that are triggering us, maybe every time your spouse goes away on a business trip, you get those feelings of abandonment. That would come from the inner child. That would come from something that was going on in your childhood that made you feel those feelings, that shows up in your adult life. And that, to me, is the most important part, is dealing with those feelings of the inner child, because she or he really impacts every other area. And so the other sections of the book, they go on to talk about your health, your relationships, your career, and then it concludes with your spiritual life, your way, because how many times have we been told how to be spiritual? And I hope that I never do that to anyone, and that, we all recognize that our spiritual life is our way and our journey, and that we all have this amazing spark of life that is within all of us that makes us all the same. Even though we do have our things that are different, we are fundamentally all the same. We are all part of source energy or God or universe or whatever it is you want to call it, and however you want to practice that. But that wraps right back around to that inner child, because she needs that framework, or he needs that framework to really heal.
So
and so I'm going to share a funny story with you that happened on the weekend. On Sunday. And so I haven't shared this with anyone yet, but I guarantee it will be in my next book. So my inner child had a rough week last week. And, I was faced with some struggle, and my very lovely, well-meaning, amazing friends and spiritual community told me, hold your head high, just breathe, all of these things. Look at how well you've done for yourself. You're doing great. Let it go. All those things that we're supposed to say, right? That we're supposed to say to other people. At some point, I realized that I was really angry because I had a right to be, and that I didn't want to be in a situation where I was forced to compromise my values and to not be able to have my own boundaries. And, I tolerated it. I went through, I focused on the positive. But Sunday, let's say I had the hangover from not putting myself first, from not taking care of myself, from not honoring that little child who was mad as hell that I put her in that situation. And so, I tried the usual tactics of meditating and releasing these feelings and so on. But I just had too much anger. And I really had to get it out physically. So, funny story, I decided to go mow the lawn. And partway through mowing the lawn, it's been raining for days, and this is not the ideal time to mow the lawn. Right? So the lawnmower keeps stalling out, and I'm getting madder and madder. And at one point was yelling and swearing at the lawnmower. Maybe I've kicked it a couple times, and eventually just got mad and dumped it over. And I just went and sat down on the picnic table, and it felt great. It was just exactly what I needed to do, right? And I think that I just want to encourage everyone, don't tell yourself that the only way to be spiritual is to be constantly in a state of gratitude and meditation. You know, it is okay to feel your feelings. And that's what, you know, Misty, you were saying, how do you transform? That's what helps you transform, is by honoring myself, right? And saying, this is what I'm feeling. This is how I'm expressing it, you know, and then I can move on into my more traditionally spiritual self, right? And just to wrap that story up, my grandson came out and he said, Grandma, that's a funny way to mow the lawn.
I love that you shared that story because, you know, I had some very challenging experiences happen myself this past weekend because we were on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all of your children and you've got your husband and everybody's, you know, hearing different things because we're out on the boat and, you know, you got the wind and the loud. And so my husband can't hear very well at all. Too many rock concerts growing up. And he just, I mean, literally cannot hear. And so he creates his own language sometimes. And so we're all having a really good time. And he's mad at us because he thinks we're saying things that we're not saying. And so I could have very easily gone into that whole human experience of myself and just like, you know, behaved back the way that he was behaving towards us. And I didn't. I just looked at him. And it was funny because one of my mentors said to me a couple weeks ago, he said, you know what? Just smile through it. He says, smile through it because that's your choice in the moment of how to receive things and how to reciprocate. And he says, so if you just see people when they're reacting towards you in a certain way, if you just see them as the face of God, if you just see them as their true, real selves, he says, then you're embodying that pure idea of love. And I know it takes practice because we're all human, like you've been saying, you know, we're healing from these certain traumas and behaviors that have been modeled, you know, for us. And sometimes we do react. Yes. But I love that you shared what you said because that just also said to me, you know what? It's okay, Sherry. It's okay.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, last night I was studying and I was reading about how, you know, there is no good or bad, there is no negative, no positive, there's just our perception of it, right, in those moments. And, you know, I do completely agree with that. And I don't think that that behavior is you know, living in a bubble or sugarcoating or not feeling your feelings. But I do agree that there is that balance of there has to be the healing first. I needed to acknowledge that young girl who had her boundaries pushed and it was too much. And for you, you know, fortunately in this situation, you were able to understand what was happening and to greet it with love. Right. And, you know, that I'm sure is a result of processing previously frustration or, you know, feelings of guilt or whatever might be coming up around that.
Yeah, because the old me would have wanted like you want to mess with me, I'll mess with you right back. You know,
yes.
Being real, the old me would have done that because that ego part of me would have said, okay, if they're pushing my boundaries, I'm going to push right back. But yes, you're right. Through my own choice to heal, my own desire to heal and look at myself, I have been able to process things in a way that obviously serves me now. And I love this whole transformation direction that you're going. Share with us some other ways that people can use tools, you know, to transform wherever they're at right now.
You know, one thing that came up when you were talking was about summer vacation. You know, people all over the world are home right now with their families. Many people are taking a vacation, even if it's just a local vacation or somewhere within their province or state. And we have these expectations, don't we? Even if we're just like, you know, going to the country for a weekend or camping for a weekend or to the lake or whatever it might be, we have these expectations in our mind of how everyone's going to act and how much fun we're going to have and what we're going to do and so on. And I think another tool that people can really use to not victimize themselves or not be feeling less than is to let go of the expectations, especially when it involves other people, right? Like for example, in that situation, Sherry, you can't control how your husband responds. However, you chose to control how you responded, right? Instead of being reactive, you were responsive. And, I just want to encourage everyone out there who's spending time with extended family or even just, having your hopes up, taking the children somewhere and then having them want to be on their devices the whole time or something like that, right? To know that, when we let go of the expectation, by all means, still having our boundaries and still having a plan, but letting go of feeling responsible for everyone else's experience, again, lifts us up. Because just the weight of that, really feels heavy and really holds us down to be responsible for how everyone else is going to feel, react, speak, enjoy, but to be responsible for your own experience.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Ooh. That was deep because it's true. I go through this occasionally with my stepdaughter, and I love her to bits. She's awesome, but there's the expectation of like, well, she's not going to eat that. Might as well not even do it, and instead of letting her go through the process and react and do what she needs to do, I just try to avoid it. And, with her, I was like, yeah, maybe I need to, you just made me think about that right now. Maybe I need to just let her react and let her see how she's going to handle it. She may like it. I don't know.
Yes. Well, and
I never know.
And it's funny because we get these ideas in our head, even when we are children. And, whether it's something as simple as, I don't like sports, right? Maybe we're telling ourselves, I don't like baseball or I don't like sports when we're little, and then never going back and revisiting that, right? Last night, I had my grandson over and he woke up during the night and he's like, I'm not a very good sleeper, Grandma. And so at 10 years old, that's already a limited belief, right? And so I would encourage all of you parents out there and for people who are just working on their own personal growth, take a look at the limiting beliefs in your life, right? I'm always late, that type of thing, or, I'm just not a very good communicator, whatever it might be that you're telling yourself. I'm not a good sleeper. I can't lose weight. There's, it's too hard to make friends. Whatever limited beliefs, there's not enough money. Really take a look at those. And I would really encourage you to put them to paper and, to do it over a process. Don't feel like you need to sit down and knock it off in 20 minutes, right? By all means, that's fun to do. Sit down and just write down as many limiting beliefs as you can think of in a short period of time, but adding to that list as it goes on. And then, as you've had a chance to look at the list and really identify the ones that are impacting your life the most, and then those are the ones where, you really want to spend that time and attention and maybe even categorize them a little bit. Maybe there's 2 or 3 health things. Maybe there's 2 or 3 relationship things. Maybe there's some things around your career, whatever it might be. So categorizing those limiting beliefs, taking a good look at them. Where did that come from? How long have I been believing that? Is it even my belief, right? Is it true for me? And how can I transform that in my life?
So how did you deal with that with your grandson when he said that to you? Because obviously it was right there in your awareness, and you're an amazing transformational coach that you are. You're probably now more conscious of wanting to really shift that with your grandson.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. And because it was 3 a.m, I haven't had a chance to do anything yet. However, I think really what I want to work with him on is just repetition. Really encouraging him to have that routine at bedtime and know that it's easy for him to fall asleep when he does those things. And, when he lets go of that belief about not being a very good sleeper, celebrating the sleep, when they wake up in the morning, and so many adults do this. I'm not a good sleeper, right? The first thing they'll say when I'll circle back, Sherry, I promise. But the first thing they'll say is, oh, I had a terrible sleep last night. I feel like I didn't sleep at all. I probably woke up every hour. How many of us know adults that do this almost every day, right? And it doesn't matter if they slept 8 hours solid, that's still what they're telling themselves. And so circling back to my grandson, to really in the morning then have that process where, hey, I feel really good. I had a really good sleep. I love when I sleep well because I know then I can do the things that I want to do with my friends and so on and feel good and that type of thing. Just really encouraging, putting the focus on the positive and taking the focus off of that limited belief. Right. So going back to that list and really looking at that list and categorizing, hey, where can I work on this? The first thing to do after we have identified the belief, where it came from, if it's even true for us, is to transform that belief. And so, let's go with there's never enough money. Right. So many people believe there's never enough money. Every time I have a little bit of money put away, something comes up. Right. I think we've all said that, right? And so just changing that belief to there's always enough money and just telling ourselves that over and over again. There's always enough money. And look at us. We're all here. So obviously, no matter what we've experienced in life, there has always been enough money. We've always made it through. And knowing that even if things come up, that's okay because extra money will come to you to help, cover that in the future. And so just really logically looking at it, but then also from that brain pattern, changing the grooves of that thinking and changing that pattern of thinking. So there's always enough money. There's always more than enough. My income is constantly increasing. Money is coming to me easily and effortlessly. And, something that I do on this subject is whenever I catch myself being stressed about money, sometimes you're driving down the road and all of a sudden your mind just goes there. Just repeating the affirmation over and over again. The one I like is money is coming to me easily and effortlessly, or when I'm on the right track, everything flows to me without effort. Like I don't even have to try. When I'm on the right track, when I'm doing the right things, everything just flows to me. And what I would really love to stress to your listeners is it's great to get up in the morning and do that. Maybe you have your list and you read your list. But if you spend the rest of the day being like, oh my God, how am I going to pay the hydro bill? Oh, I can't believe, we have to go stay at this expensive hotel on vacation. We've got company coming and I guess I'm going to have to give them steaks and, this kind of thing. How am I going to do that? Or maybe you haven't been working as much as usual. So I wonder what the future holds. I wonder if there's going to be another wave of COVID. I wonder if we're all going to be laid off. If that's what's going on in your head all day long, that 30 seconds of affirmations in the morning was fabulous, but it's not enough. Right. It's not enough, right? When we balance off that one thought with the 200 thoughts around money that we're repetitively thinking all day long, of course, that's what's sticking in our conscious and subconscious minds. So in order to actually change that groove and pattern in our brain and that thinking, we have to be practicing all day long, catching ourselves, holding ourselves accountable, catching ourselves with those negative thoughts and limiting beliefs, and just choosing a higher thought, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not asking anybody out there to go from complete sorrow and desperation to a place of complete bliss and joy, but just reaching for the higher thought. Right. So, for example, the other day when I melted down on the poor lawnmower, after I had that release, then I was able to reach for the higher thought and be like, here's what I did right. And just instead of beating myself up and being like, oh my God, I'm a spiritual teacher who just literally kicked their lawnmower, right? I was able to say, hey, you know what? This is a great example of anger releasing, which is so important in our lives.
I love it. I love it. I want to thank all of our listeners for being on here with us today on Expanded Woman Network podcast. I want to thank Victoria Johnson for being on here. Thank you all for sharing this out with your friends. This is amazing information. Please post in the chat hashtag transformation Victoria Johnson, hashtag transformation Victoria Johnson. She is an amazing, amazing transformational coach, and we are just loving this conversation that we're having right now on here. Thank you all. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Pamela. Thank you, Cindy. And oh my gosh, I can't even mention Larry. Thank you all for being here. So, Victoria, what else is in the book? We go from the inner child and we go on to, I mean, my goodness, there's so many juicy bits of information that you share in this book. Tell us a little bit more about where you go from the inner child and you're developing that awareness.
So from there, I go to our health. Because so often what we are holding inside of us, we were just talking about with anger, holding that anger inside of us will become depression. Things just show up in our health, right? And so I thought it was really important to go from that straight into health. And so often for myself, there's been throughout my life weight issues. And so I was valuing myself based on whatever number was on the scale. And so really what I wanted to teach people about that transformation is number one thing I've realized, it doesn't matter if you're at your ideal weight or if you're 100 pounds overweight. If you're having the same thoughts, you're having the same experience. Yeah. Right? And how we beat ourselves up and so on. So don't feel like in order to address that, you need to have that weight issue. What it really comes down to is the loving ourselves issue, the feeling that we are enough, right? Really connecting with our own deservability and honoring ourselves and putting ourselves first. So really, basically, that section on health is how we use our thoughts to really improve our lives, to how our thoughts affect our emotions, how our emotions affect our behaviors, and how that all circles through again, and really realizing that we can live in our optimum health situation, no matter what is happening, in my case on the scale, in other people's case, in their blood work or whatever it might be. Maybe it's high blood pressure or cholesterol, or, sometimes we get caught again, and not to minimize anything, but we get caught again in that trap of diabetes runs in my family. All the women in my family have had some sort of thyroid issue or cancer and so on. And just really watching where we put our focus, right? Not focusing on those things, not focusing on, well, everybody in my family has a heart attack by the time they're 70, but focusing on what we can do to transform our own health through our belief system. And, there's so many great books out there right now on this topic. For women, anything written by Dr. Christiane Northrup is absolutely amazing on women's health and our approach to it and our attitude about it. I love Dr. Bruce Lipton and how he talks about the neuroscience of it all, and really he's a cell biologist, and really connecting again that inner child piece right through to what's happening in our health in the present day. And so that's how we can make those transformations, and how they show up in all sorts of little ways in our life, giving us a better life experience.
So true. Well, I love how you use emotional intelligence, because everything that you've said is literally my own life issues. My primary life's issues were around food. And so when I was a little girl, my way to deal with my emotions was to read romance novels, because it was the prince and, the princess and the white picket fence and all of that. And so in order for me to deal with my insecurities, because I had a stepfather in my house who was very abusive. And so for me to, fall away from all that was to read these romance novels and to eat, because my mother was from Oklahoma. So she was made everything down home cooking. And so food was that comfort for me. And then later on, it was always comparing myself to others and looking at, beautiful women with gorgeous bodies. And then I would beat the crap out of myself, because I would say, why can't you do that? And what's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? And just like you were saying with Dr. Bruce Lipton and, the whole cell biology, we don't realize that our bodies are supposed to be the servants. We're the master. We're the captain of the ship. And so when it comes to that whole cellular structure, the cells are only reacting to what we're believing about it, what we're telling our bodies about ourselves. And so for me, all I did all the time was, beat myself up. And so now with all these tips that you're talking about, I mean, it's about something so simple as looking at myself in the mirror every morning when I get up, and I start saying, you're so beautiful, and I love you, and I love how shapely and beautiful your body reflects how you feel about yourself on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, like you said, I don't have to fight the way I used to when I was looking at my body as, this physical thing. And now I tap inward, and the body begins to reflect with ease and grace what I feel on the inside.
Yes. Oh my goodness. If I could give you a standing ovation right now, I'd be doing it. It's so true. We do not have to name and claim defeat, right? We do not have to give in to that. What you said about comparing ourselves with others, and, the negative, can you imagine if we did that to a friend? So say, for example, if I said to Misty the things that I said to myself, right? Misty, I'm comparing you this way and that way and so on and so forth. Like, what a low energy vibration that is.
Yeah.
And when we're in that constant place of criticism, right? And so often it's become such a habit that we don't even notice that we're doing it. It can just happen in a moment, and then it passes and we don't even notice, but the cells notice, right? Our body notices and our body responds. You think I'm unhealthy? You think I'm, always depressed? You think I'm not enough? This is how I'm responding, right? Alternatively, we all know what it's like when those endorphins are running high and we're feeling really good about ourselves, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and how the body responds. People are like, what, did you get a haircut? What's going on? What's different? We literally radiate, and, nothing measurable has changed. But what has changed is the way that we are treating ourselves and how we are honoring our physical selves.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I've had, even after the quarantine, because I go on and off with struggling with weight issues myself, and mostly it's hormonal and midlife stuff going on right now. And, after this quarantine, well, let me kind of go back about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I was the same weight as I am now after quarantine. And I had such a different perspective about myself and how I felt about myself and how I looked at myself. I was kind of disgusted, and, I was dating at the time. So I felt like the men were disgusted because I was so huge, and then I look at myself now and I was like, I'm not bad. I feel good about myself. Even though I'm a little bit heavier, okay, big deal. I'll work it off. I'll get it off. It's gonna, we'll figure it out. But just a different perspective and how I feel about myself and how I wake up each morning. And I don't talk to myself as much as Sherry does in the morning, but I have learned that you have to love yourself. You have to truly love yourself for who you are at that moment every day. And it makes such a huge difference in how you just feel emotionally, and even about your inner child, like you were saying. It goes back to that time.
Absolutely. It sure does, and that whole body image piece, and maybe it's not about weight, maybe it's about being clumsy, whatever it is that you believed back then, you hold on to now. It's like, oh, I'm always tripping over my own feet or whatever it might be, right? So, we've all got a lot of work to do in terms, excuse me, in terms of, we've got these things that we can transform. But I want to say that what I've been focusing on lately is not thinking of the work, like, okay, I'm super serious right now, I'm going to do my spiritual growth, right? Yeah. But instead being like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to take this negative belief and I'm going to knock it out of the park, right? Here's how I'm going to work through this, right? I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to get through this, or I'm going to explore where this came from, and then I'm going to do some forgiveness work, and it's going to feel great. And just not making everything a struggle and super serious, right? But really enjoying this beautiful, amazing life and manifestation of light that we are. Right? It really goes to that.
So true, because even just that you just said brought me back to a moment of awareness. And that's what I love so much about what you've been sharing, because so much of it is in perfect alignment with my own belief. It's about really honoring today and recognizing that yesterday is over. That's the 95% of the past that most of us spend each day in, and tomorrow hasn't yet happened. So as you've been sharing all these juicy tips with us, what's really been coming forward for myself is that awareness of recognizing that I'm moving forward through the moments of today, choosing how I want to feel, choosing how I want to recognize, oh, wait a minute, that's come up for the moment, and I'm observing that it's here, and I'm allowed to feel, but I'm also allowed to choose higher and to be higher. And I know for myself, the more that I allow myself to shine, it's like Misty was saying earlier about, maybe being a little plumper during this COVID-19. What I realize, Victoria, is that most people don't even see that part of you. They see the beautiful light that you are, because I don't even see that about Misty for 1 second. I see this magnificent, beautiful, shining light. And that's what I'm projecting and you're projecting. And that's what we want to be spreading and sprinkling all over everybody else, is the beauty of that light that's happening in here.
Absolutely. And how great, first of all, what you said is so incredibly true. So often, I'll notice that with people that, maybe we are corresponding for a while, maybe then they'll mention like, oh, but I'm losing some hair, or maybe I've put on a few pounds, and honestly, we don't even notice, because we are seeing the light, right? We are seeing the light. And I do want to just go back a moment to what you said about how we can often kind of get stuck in the past. And one of the things that Louise teachers, of course, are taught was the point of power is in the present moment, right? Living in the now. But another thing was, and this is what I find so incredibly powerful, the past only exists in our mind. Right? So when we are comparing ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it might be, maybe it's the neighbor who always parks in front of our driveway, whatever it is, right? We do not have to make the same choices and have the same thoughts and responses and decisions and reactions that we've had in the past. The past only exists in our mind. And we've all had trauma. Maybe we've had, a spouse that cheated. Maybe we've had, some financial challenges, some health challenges, whatever it is. We don't have to stay stuck there, right? And we can know that whatever happened, like for me, I'm thinking about a situation that happened literally like 35 years ago. Or close to that. And when I think about it, it still annoys me, right? I can let that go, right? I can choose to just, the past is not there anymore. It does not exist, right? That situation only lives in my head. It doesn't live anywhere else. And so just knowing that that's how powerful we are. We get to make those choices all the time. And that segues me into the next section of the book, which is on relationships. Right?
Great segue.
I like it when it comes together. And, so our relationships, whether it is, well, let's start with romantic relationships. We've all had our heart broken at some point, right? And whether it's with a previous relationship or with someone that we are with now and love deeply, we hurt each other. We don't mean to, we hurt each other. And so often we get stuck, or I know I have in the past, and my clients that I've talked to, we get stuck in that emotion, right? We get stuck in, I'm the victim, I'm the one who got hurt, I'm the one who had to make the sacrifices. And then we just want to live there in negative land, right? And because first of all, it feels good to be right. It justifies all of the nastiness that happened, right? But the thing is that, the same person can have gone through the same things and used it as a stepping stone, used it to get out of the rut that they were in, to find the things that are currently going on now that they can be grateful for, that they would have never experienced had they never gone through the heartbreak. And, the same thing with our family relationships. Even if we just talk about siblings, I think probably every family has somebody who they think was the favorite, whether it was true or not, right? They have that. And so, maybe it's my mom always liked my sister more than, she liked me, or had more in common with her, or she gave her more allowances and so on. So we can tell ourselves these stories that make us feel bad. Or we can tell ourselves the things that make us feel good, and we can live in that power instead. And again, letting go of that past, that the past only exists in our mind, and really just nurturing those types of relationships, the good, the positive, keeping the focus there. And, Sherry, you were talking earlier about choosing the positive response. We can choose the positive response. We also choose who we surround ourselves with and the amount of contact that we have and so on. And really just setting ourselves up for the best experiences in life without thinking that we need to sacrifice ourselves or be the martyr. But instead we can live in the light. And what I find, the more that I live in the light, the less that maybe a lower energy person wants to do with me anyways. So it works out great. It works out great. And that's how, people like us, how your listeners, how your viewers, they all get attracted together because we are the light seekers. We are the people who are continuing with transformation throughout our entire lives and moving forward and reaching for that higher thought.
So, I got major goosebumps over that. Yes, we are. That's why we're all here, trying to help each other, trying to lift each other. It's definitely a passion for Sherry and I, and that's how we came together to create this, because we actually, both of us have careers in permanent makeup as well. And it's really funny how, it would all bring us together out of one little thing, permanent makeup. So that just reminded me of that.
I want to touch on that because I think that for people who are out there doing a career that makes people feel good, they have, that little bit of a leg up, right? Because when you literally get to spend your days making people feel good about themselves, how great is that? Right? Yeah. So to, people out there who are in the beauty industry, or people who are out there who are coaches, who are just helping to raise that awareness, to raise the self-love, to raise the self-acceptance in people, how can it be anything less than a beautiful life?
So true. Yeah, and it gives you that platform every single day. It's, all my clients say to me, "Oh my God, we never expected to come here and you motivate us, or me have a counseling session." And I wanted to touch back on a second when it comes to like our siblings. You mentioned our siblings. And there was this huge shift with me. I am, basically a former drug addict, and I recovered 23 years ago. And during that time, my little brother lived with me. I'm the oldest of 4 children. And so one of my little brothers is 5 years older than me. And so some really difficult, negative, scary things happened when we were messed up. And so my brother has chosen to literally hate me for 23 years. And he still lives in the belief of me being that person that I was 23 years ago. And it's so funny because, like you said, as I've grown forward and as I've chosen to expand and to tap into that inner part of myself, instead of continuing to beat myself up about what happened 23 years ago, I now see my little brother as the beautiful child of God that he is, as the beautiful individualized experience. I've forgiven that side, that event, that experience. And so now I just literally, and the same thing with my father, these issues that I've had with my father and trying to compare myself and meet up to that idea of perfectionism that he modeled, for me. I love that you're saying these things because it brings me back to the moment again, the present moment, where it is my point of power and where I can own my power in the moment and choose love with conscious awareness. And the beautiful part about right now with my father is my father and I finally have a relationship. We have a relationship out of love and respect now. And you know what? My little brother, heck, you know what? One day at a time.
Absolutely. And it's so great, Sherry. That's such a good example for everyone watching and listening. Just because someone thinks of us a certain way does not mean that we are that way. Right? We have had a chance to grow and change. And again, it's their perception. And so often it's tempting to think, well, they're wrong. Right? So say your brother's name is Bill. Bill's wrong. Bill's just wrong about me. Bill doesn't know. Bill needs to get over it. Bill shouldn't be judging me. Right? But instead, like what you're doing is just being in this place of love and acceptance and saying, he doesn't know who I am now. Some stuff happened, but he doesn't know who I am now. But I'm going to send Bill love. So it's my belief that he receives that. Whether he's within 2,000 miles of you or not doesn't matter. But it's the space you're holding him in. You're not holding him in judgment or criticism or blame. You're holding him in love. So that energy is flowing to him. That is a bond, a connection that you are establishing and holding for him. And I believe that when we do that, and when we continuously lift other people up, they automatically rise up. And it may not be in our timing, but it is always in the perfect timing.
That's so awesome. Well, what's next, girl? Relationships? What are we moving on to next?
So then the last section of the book is Your Spiritual Life, Your Way. And this is something that I really am passionate about, again, because I was raised by wonderful people in a wonderful environment. However, I felt like I was wrong for as long as I can remember when it comes with my spiritual beliefs. I remember being like 9 years old and being in church and it being testimony service and looking around and watching people and just feeling fear and feeling less than and feeling bad and that I didn't measure up. And to have those feelings that young really impacted me. And it just wasn't my tribe, so to speak. And when you're that young, you don't you really don't know what to do with that. And so as time went on and I was able to explore my own beliefs and develop my own beliefs, I was able to establish what I believe is my spiritual path, my way, and my calling and my gift to the world that I can share as my own ministry, and let go of all of those feelings of less than or wrong or bad or not good enough or a sinner or whatever it might be. And, I'm not condemning organized religion in any way, because I think that for many people, it is the way, it is the answer. But for other people like myself, I needed something different. And when I was able to say, it's okay, Victoria, you're allowed to be a little different, and you're allowed to feel different and believe different and grow differently and minister differently. The peace and the blessings that came with that have been immeasurable and have allowed me to expand my reach even further into how I can help people and to live a happier, more satisfied, fulfilled life.
Wow.
And that's what I want for other people too.
Powerful.
I'm so feeling that, because I did not have religion, and I found God and Jesus at like 24. Something was missing, but then I took it to the other extreme, really kind of judgmental, and I'm like, I don't want to be like that. I realized later, I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be that person that judges someone else because they're not acting like me or not a Christian like me or whatever it may be. And nowadays, like, I'm still Christian, but it's a whole different realm of how I feel about other people. Like, we all have our issues. We all have things that we're having to deal with. And I think it, like Sherry was saying, it's just coming out of love for everyone and wanting everyone else to be better, feel better, about themselves.
Well, and I think you make a really good point that when you turned it inward, right? Our spirituality is inward. And when we take it outward, that's when we're judging and other people. And there, I remember listening to Marianne Williamson speak one time, and she said spiritual superiority is an ugly thing. And that really, really stuck with me, because, I don't care if it's a religion or what any kind of spirit-based thing, if it's New Age, if it's metaphysics, what it is, but that spiritual superiority really is an ugly thing. But when it comes from the inside, when our spiritual self comes from the inside and lives inside, and that's who we're responsible for spiritually, is ourselves, then I believe there's no judgment, right? Because it's not my business. It's not my business how someone else is living, what they're doing, and so on. I know what my spiritual job is, and that's the lane I need to stay in. And so that's why I called that section of the book, Your Spiritual Life, Your Way.
I love it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, such amazing information that you just shared with everybody. I'm really excited to get your book. I didn't get it prior to this, but I'm very excited to get your book and take a read, and I might have to send it to a couple people too.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit. So tell us how everybody can reach you, or get in touch with you if they'd like some more information about you and what you do.
Sure. I'll just quickly say that I'm excited because starting July 27th, actually you're the first people that I've told, I'm doing a free 5-day challenge with people. I wanted to have some fun. We talk about the spiritual life and being fun. So it is called Affirmations in Action, Reset, Slumped to Pumped.
Oh, love it.
I love it. So I'll have
information. Gun, Sherry.
I'll have information on that on my website, victoriajohnson.com. For information more on the Heal Your Life training, you can go to victoriajohnson.com or thetraining.ca. My book, Do That and Then Some, Transform Feelings of Less Than to More Than Enough. The book and the workbook are on Amazon. Instagram is Heal Your Life Canada. Facebook is Heal Your Life Training. Or you can just plain old fashioned email me at victoria@thetraining.ca. Thank you so much for having me.
Gosh, thank you so much.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, we want to thank all of our guests and our listeners. Thank you all for having shared this out on Facebook or any of your other social media profiles. We want to let you know that you can find us on our women's network. We have a women's group community on Facebook, and you can find us at, tell them, Misty.
It's facebook.com/groups/expanded woman business network. And on regular Facebook, if you'd like to follow our page, it's facebook.com/expanded woman. And same for Instagram, instagram.com/expanded woman.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And all of you have an amazing rest of the week. Yay. And we look forward to this each and every Tuesday at 9:00 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 11 o'clock Central Time. Missy?
Central Time. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And thank you so much, everyone. And have a great, amazing rest of the week. Bye now.
Bye.